An orphan took in a stray cat, unaware it was the key to finding her long-lost parents. The words had haunted Amelia Hayes since childhood, scrawled in faded ink across the only photograph she possessed of her parents, a cryptic message that made no sense until now. The rain fell in sheets against the window pane of Amelia's tiny apartment, matching the steady stream of tears on her cheeks. 25 years old, and still the emptiness inside her chest felt as vast as it had when she was 7, the age when she'd been told her parents weren't coming back. No bodies, no closure, just gone. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her worn sweater and glanced at the calendar on her refrigerator. 18 years to the day since they'd disappeared. 18 years of foster homes, of searching faces in crowds, of jumping whenever the phone rang. 18 years of hope slowly calcifying into resignation. The sound came again, the one that had pulled her from her melancholy moments ago. A plaintive mewl barely audible above the drumming rain. Amelia pushed herself off the couch and approached the window, pressing her palm against the cold glass. There, huddled beneath the fire escape, was a bedraggled ball of fur, soaked to the bone and shivering violently. "Oh, you poor thing," she whispered, her breath fogging the glass. Something tugged at her heart, a feeling so familiar yet foreign. Without thinking, she grabbed her keys and hurried downstairs, the chill of the autumn night biting through her thin clothes. The cat didn't run when she approached. It looked up at her with eyes the color of amber, unblinking, as if it had been waiting for her all along. "Come on, then," Amelia said, scooping up the trembling creature. Its fur was matted, revealing patches of skin, and it was painfully thin beneath the sodden coat. But it didn't struggle. Instead, it pressed its small head against her chest, seeking warmth, seeking connection. The first night, Amelia slept with the cat curled against her neck, its gentle purr a lullaby she hadn't known she needed. She'd never had pets. The foster homes she'd bounced between had rules, always rules. No animals, no attachments, no permanence. By morning, she'd named him Marmalade for his golden eyes and orange-striped coat, now visible after a gentle bath had revealed his true colors. Something about him felt familiar, like a half-remembered dream. "You're not wearing a collar," Amelia told Marmalade as she placed a saucer of milk on the floor. "But someone must be missing you." The cat tilted his head, regarding her with that same steady gaze that seemed to see straight through her carefully constructed walls. "I'll take you to the vet, see if you're microchipped. Someone must be looking for you." The words felt hollow even as she spoke them. No one had ever looked for her after all. The veterinarian, a kind-eyed woman named Dr. Patel, examined Marmalade with gentle hands. "No microchip," she confirmed, scratching behind the cat's ears. "But there is something unusual." She pointed to a small patch of fur on Marmalade's shoulder that formed a distinctive pattern, almost like a birthmark. "It looks like a little key," Amelia observed, tracing the shape with her fingertip. Dr. Patel nodded. "Cats sometimes have unique markings. This one's quite distinctive." A shiver ran down Amelia's spine, though she couldn't say why. It was just a marking, just a coincidence. Yet, as she carried Marmalade home in a cardboard carrier, she couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened, like the first domino in a long row had just been tipped. Days passed, then weeks. Marmalade settled into Amelia's life as if he'd always been there, a gentle presence padding behind her through the apartment, curling in her lap while she worked from home as a freelance graphic designer. For the first time in her life, Amelia found herself talking out loud to Marmalade, who watched her with those intelligent eyes, tail twitching as if considering her words. "My parents disappeared when I was 7. She told him one night, stroking his soft fur as they sat by the window, watching the city lights blink on one by one. "They went on a trip and never came back. No one could tell me what happened." Marmalade purred, the vibration traveling through her fingertips, up her arm, settling somewhere near her heart. "I keep their picture by my bed. It's silly, I know, but it's all I have left." Her voice caught. "That and this." She touched the delicate silver locket around her neck. The one possession she'd managed to hold onto through years of being shuttled from one home to another. The locket contained a tiny slip of paper with those same words. An orphan took in a stray cat, unaware it was the key to finding her long-lost parents, and a sequence of numbers that meant nothing to her. A puzzle with no solution. A door with no key. Until Marmalade. It was a Tuesday morning when everything changed. Amelia was sorting through a box of old documents, birth certificate, social security card, the sparse official record of her existence, when Marmalade jumped onto the table, scattering papers. As she moved to shoo him away, he batted at her locket, which had fallen open. "Hey, careful," she scolded gently, reaching for the necklace. But Marmalade was insistent, pawing at the tiny paper inside. As Amelia tried to reclaim her locket, she noticed something she'd never seen before. Faint writing on the back of the paper, visible only when the light hit it just right. Her hands trembled as she carefully unfolded the slip. There, in the same faded ink as the front, was an address, and beneath it, a single line: "When the key returns, so shall we." Amelia's heart hammered against her ribs. She looked at Marmalade, at the key-shaped marking on his shoulder, and something clicked into place. The sequence of numbers, they weren't random. They were coordinates. It took her 3 days to work up the courage to follow where they led. 3 days of telling herself she was being ridiculous, that it was impossible, that cats didn't lead people to long-lost parents. But the hope that had lain dormant for 18 years had flickered to life, and she couldn't extinguish it now. The coordinates led to a small town called Millfield, nearly 6 hours from the city. Amelia packed an overnight bag, placed Marmalade in his carrier despite his vocal protests, and set out early Saturday morning, her stomach a knot of anxiety and desperate anticipation. Millfield was the kind of place where time seemed to move more slowly. Quaint storefronts lined the main street, American flags fluttered from porch railings, and people nodded to each other in passing. Amelia felt conspicuous as she drove through in her city-worn sedan, Marmalade meowing questioningly from the passenger seat. "I know, buddy. I don't know what we're doing here either." The specific coordinates pointed to a blue Victorian house at the end of Maple Street, its paint peeling and garden overgrown. It looked abandoned, forgotten by time, just like Amelia had been. She parked across the street, heart in her throat. What was she doing here? What did she expect to find? Her parents waiting with open arms and 18 years of explanations? The thought was as painful as it was laughable. Yet something compelled her forward, Marmalade's carrier clutched in white-knuckled hands. The cat had gone silent, watchful, as if he too sensed the importance of this moment. The porch steps creaked beneath her weight. No doorbell, just a tarnished knocker shaped like a lion's head. Amelia raised it, then let it fall, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the quiet afternoon. Silence. Of course. What had she expected? She was turning to leave when she heard it. Movement inside. Slow footsteps approaching the door. The rasp of a security chain being removed. And then the door opened, and Amelia's world tilted on its axis. The woman was older than in the photograph, silver threaded through her dark hair, lines etched around her eyes, but unmistakable. Those were Amelia's own eyes staring back at her, widening in shock, filling with tears. "Amelia?" The word was barely a whisper, a prayer, a question. Amelia couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The carrier slipped from her numb fingers, the door swinging open as it hit the porch. Marmalade darted out, straight to the woman, twining around her ankles with a purr that seemed to fill the silent space between them. The woman, her mother, dropped to her knees, gathering the cat in trembling hands. "The key," she breathed, touching the marking on his shoulder. "It came back, just like he said it would." She looked up at Amelia, tears streaming down her face. "You found us." "Us?" Amelia finally managed, her voice cracking. As if summoned by the word, a man appeared in the doorway behind her mother. Tall, with Amelia's same wavy brown hair, now streaked with gray. Her father, alive. "Here." "How?" Amelia started, but couldn't continue. Too many questions crowded her throat, fighting to be asked first. "Why did you leave me? Where have you been? How could you?" Her mother rose slowly, still clutching Marmalade. "Please," she said, extending her free hand. "Come inside. We have so much to explain." The inside of the house was sparse but clean, with the unlived-in feel of a place that served as shelter but not home. There were no personal touches, no photographs, nothing to indicate the people who lived there had any past at all, except for one thing, a painting hanging above the fireplace. It showed a young girl with a cat, both looking out a window at a starry night. With a jolt, Amelia recognized herself at 7 years old. And the cat, it could have been Marmalade's twin. "You've been watching me." It wasn't a question. Her father nodded, his face a mask of grief and regret. From a distance. "We had no choice, Amelia." "No choice?" The words tore from her throat. "You left me! Do you have any idea what my life has been like?" The homes I've been in, the people who didn't want me, the nights I cried myself to sleep wondering what I did wrong." Her mother flinched as if struck. "We never wanted to leave you. It was to protect you." "Protect me from what?" Her parents exchanged a look heavy with unspoken communication. Finally, her father sighed and gestured to the worn sofa. "It's a long story. Please sit." Amelia remained standing, arms crossed over her chest, a physical barrier against whatever explanation they thought could possibly justify abandoning their child. Her father ran a hand through his hair, the same gesture Amelia made when stressed. "Your mother and we were witness protection." Of all the scenarios Amelia had imagined over the years, this had never been one of them. "What?" "We testified against a very dangerous man," her mother explained, still cradling Marmalade, who watched the proceedings with those unblinking amber eyes. "Martin Keller. He ran a trafficking ring, and we had evidence that could put him away for life." "I was an accountant at a shipping company," her father continued. "I noticed discrepancies in the books. Your mother worked at the Port Authority. Together we pieced it together." "We went to the FBI," her mother said. "They promised to protect us, all of us. But after the trial, there was a leak. Someone in the program was compromised. Keller's associates found our safe house." Her father's voice was hollow with remembered terror. "They gave us 10 minutes to pack and run. They said we couldn't take you. It was too dangerous. You'd be safer in the system until Keller was caught. It was supposed to be temporary." "Temporary?" Amelia's laugh was bitter. "It's been 18 years. Keller escaped custody," her mother said softly. "He disappeared overseas. The FBI lost track of him. We had to stay hidden, but we never stopped watching over you," her father insisted. "We moved wherever you were placed. We made anonymous donations to your foster families. We ... his voice broke. "We saw you grow up through windows and from across parks." "It was torture, Amelia. Absolute torture." "Why the message?" Amelia demanded, touching her locket. "Why the cat?" Her mother's eyes softened as she looked down at Marmalade. "Your cat as a child, the real Marmalade, he was special to you. When we had to leave, we couldn't explain everything to a 7-year-old. So we wrote that message, hoping someday you'd understand. The key was our sign. If a cat with that marking ever found you, it would mean Keller had been caught. It would mean it was safe for us to come home." "This isn't Marmalade," Amelia said weakly. "My childhood cat died years ago." Her parents exchanged another look. "No," her father said gently. "The original Marmalade disappeared the same night we did. We took him with us. He was the only piece of you we could keep." Amelia's knees finally gave out and she sank onto the sofa. "You're telling me this is the same cat? That's impossible. Cats don't live that long." "Not the same cat," her mother clarified. "His offspring. We've kept his bloodline going, waiting for the day it would be safe. Each generation has had the same marking. It's a genetic trait, passed down. This is Marmalade the Fifth, actually." The absurdity of it all bubbled up in Amelia's chest, emerging as a choked laugh that quickly dissolved into tears. "You bred cats for 18 years on the off chance one would somehow find me?" "We didn't leave it to chance," her father said. 3 weeks ago we got word from our handler. Keller died in a prison in Belarus. It was finally over. We could come out of hiding. But we were afraid," her mother admitted, tears streaming down her face. "Afraid you'd hate us. Afraid you wouldn't believe us. So we found where you lived and released Marmalade nearby. We hoped he'd find you, that you'd see the marking and remember the message. And then you'd come to us," her father finished. "Which you did." Amelia shook her head, overwhelmed. It was too much, too fantastical, too convenient. And yet, here they were, the parents she'd mourned for 18 years, alive, with an explanation that, while extraordinary, made a terrible kind of sense. "You could have sent a letter," she said finally. "A phone call. Anything. Would you have believed us?" her mother asked softly. "Or would you have thought it was a cruel joke?" Amelia had no answer for that. Instead, she looked at Marmalade, now contentedly grooming himself on her mother's lap. "So what happens now?" "That's up to you," her father said. "We've lost 18 years. Nothing can give those back. But if you're willing, we'd like the chance to be your parents again, to know the amazing woman you've become." The room fell silent save for Marmalade's steady purring. Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the worn carpet. Amelia felt the weight of the moment, the fragility of this newfound connection, the years of pain and longing that had led to this point. "I don't know if I can forgive you," she said finally, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside her. "Not yet, maybe not ever fully," Her parents nodded, accepting this hard truth with the grace of people who had lived with regret for too long. "But," Amelia continued, I think I'd like to try to understand, to get to know you, the real you, not the ghosts I've been carrying all these years." Her mother's hand trembled as she reached across the space between them, not touching, but offering. "That's more than we deserve. More than we dared hope for." Amelia looked at that outstretched hand, then at Marmalade, who had played his part in this impossible reunion. Slowly, she extended her own hand, not quite taking her mother's, but allowing their fingertips to touch, the first physical contact in 18 years. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it was a beginning. And as Marmalade stretched contentedly and moved from her mother's lap to hers, settling with his familiar purr against her heart, Amelia felt something shift inside her, like a key turning in a lock long rusted shut. Not opening fully, not yet, but the mechanism had engaged. The possibility of opening existed. Sometimes, she thought as she tentatively stroked the cat that had led her home, the keys to our locked hearts come in the most unexpected forms, and sometimes, against all odds, they lead us exactly where we need to go. In the soft evening light, as her parents began to tell her stories of their years in hiding, of watching her grow from afar, of the impossible love that had sustained them through the darkest times, Amelia listened. And though the walls around her heart remained, they now had windows, small, cautious openings through which connection might someday flow. Outside, night fell over Millfield, stars appearing one by one in the vast sky. Inside, 3 people and a cat began the delicate work of finding their way back to each other, one story, one memory, one moment of healing at a time. And Marmalade, descendant of the cat who had witnessed the family's fracturing 18 years before, purred his approval as the first fragile threads of reunion were woven in the quiet house at the end of Maple Street.